time for NTV News at 1. My name is Dibal Ainab. Attorney General Kihara Kariuki is expected to hold a press conference to respond to the accusation by Chief Justice David Maraga yesterday. Maraga accused the Attorney General, who previously served as a Court of Appeal judge himself, of aiding and abetting President Uhuru Kenyatta in the disregard of court orders. Those are of course, the live pictures we want to cross over there so that we can get to listen in to what the Attorney General is saying.
Madam, we'll go ahead without this, yes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all very much for responding to our invitation to this briefing. Let me begin by welcoming you to the State Law Office and also to apologize for the delay in addressing you. We should have been here at 12 noon, but I was attending a meeting of the NDICC, which involves all cabinet secretaries, and the meeting took slightly longer than anticipated. I will read an abridged version of the Honourable the Attorney General's response, and thereafter we will make available to you a longer version which has, we hope, all the answers that you might wish to have. Ladies and gentlemen, for the second time in less than a week, the Honourable the Chief Justice has taken to launching a public attack against His Excellency the President and the Executive at large through an avalanche of press conferences. This is not only a serious breach of established norms of government, but is also a puzzling move given the direct line of communication that exists between the Honourable the Chief Justice and His Excellency the President. Of particular concern is the fact that these emotive and highly charged public attacks by the Honourable the Chief Justice have now taken a decisively personal slant. I will not join the raging public in discussing the overall temperate and stability of some of us called to serve. Further, the Honourable the Chief Justice is openly commenting on the relative merits and demerits of cases involving the Executive, which are still pending in the courts. This not only creates a perception that the Honourable the Chief Justice is seeking to influence the outcome of these cases, but also raises questions as to why he, as a Justice of the Supreme Court, is expressing extrajudicial opinions on matters that may end up in the Supreme Court for hearing and determination. The Executive declines to follow the example of the Honourable the Chief Justice in a descent into public forum attacks. We strongly believe in the norms of governance and in the long-established communication channels between arms of government. The Executive shall not play to the gallery, but rather we shall reach out to our counterparts and seek to build synergies and cooperation demanded by the people of Kenya from their government. Government is a calling to public service, and delivery for the benefit of the people of Kenya, not grandstanding and playing to the gallery for hero status. As such, and in keeping with those long established principles, we shall respond to the Honourable Chief Justice directly with respect to the issues he has raised, which are not the subject of ongoing cases. The Executive also declines to comment on the relative merits or demerits of the ongoing cases referred to by the Honourable Chief Justice in his press release. Besides that, the doctrine of sub judice and contempt of court, which the Honourable Chief Justice may have breached by commenting on what should have been the outcomes of those pending cases, is a vital part of our constitutional architecture and a key pillar of the judicial independence of judges and magistrates hearing those cases. We strongly believe that court cases should be litigated within the corridors of justice and not at media briefings. The Executive will respect those doctrines and jealously guard against interference with judicial independence. That said, His Excellency the President will not abdicate his role as head of state and government to appoint persons with a questionable record to serve the nation in the solemn role of judge. At a time when our nation is grappling with the negative effects of COVID-19 pandemic, which have included the near total shuttering of our courts by order of the Honourable Chief Justice, we invite that office to focus on reopening access to justice, eliminating the inordinately high levels of backlog of cases, and addressing the concerns of litigants over the administrative barriers that constrain their ability to be heard by the courts. There is only one government of the Republic of Kenya. All its arms and levels were constituted by the people of Kenya to serve them and deliver public good. The people of Kenya deserve wise and effective leadership that builds synergies and prioritizes over service as opposed to self. As always, the Executive is ready and willing to work with the other arms of government and in delivering the Kenyan dream as so eloquently enunciated by His Excellency the President during the Madaraka Day State Address. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, you will have a longer version of what I have said, which will give specific answers to the issues that have been raised by the Honourable Chief Justice. We thank you, and we will not be taking any questions. Thank you very much for attending.
And that is the Attorney General speaking from the State Law Office, reacting to yesterday's press conference by the Chief Justice. And he's also gone full steam ahead to remind Kenyans that, of course, we're going to have the full response also later in the day. But also, just salient points that should have also been reiterated as we move on is that he says that the Chief Justice has taken a decisively personal slant on the President as far as his press conferences are concerned. He mentions that there has been an avalanche of attack through the press on the presidency, and also the extrajudicial opinions on matters that may end up in Supreme Court for judgment and determination that the president will not comment on. In this regard, also keeping in the spirit of sub judice rule. And he also reminds us that the executive also declines to comment on pending cases mentioned by CJ, just also to mention, as I've said before, in line with the sub judice rule. The executive will not abdicate his role as head of government to appoint officers with questionable ethical standing. And also, the president is ready to work with other arms of government. And of course, our reporter, Olive Barrows, is on the ground. She's on top of that particular story, and we'll give you more full details of this later in our subsequent bulletins. Right now, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services has embarked on the construction works around the capital city, Nairobi, aimed at refurbishing roads and pavements and beautification of the city. NTV's Seth Olale now joins us live from one of the construction sites. Seth, where are you exactly now?
Good afternoon, Dibal. Al Kimathi Street, where, as you can see behind me, we have the ongoing reconstruction of this particular road that I don't remember the last time I saw renovation works happening, but it is happening today courtesy of the Metropolitan Services and of course led by General Mohammed Badi, and this has been the scene early today. From early today, this particular road has been closed all the way from the junction joining Kimathi Street, that is Banda Street, and no vehicles are being allowed here simply because the reconstruction of this particular road, and like you said, Dibal, is that this has been ongoing not only on the roads but also on the drainages as well as pavements. You remember, just like me, that surprise night inspection by the head of state accompanied by the leader of the opposition, Raila Odinga. That was on the Madaraka Day, 1st June 2020, and they were along Kenyatta Avenue, and it is just part of the beautification program being spearheaded by the new leadership at the capital. And this, they say, will be the case not only in the CBD, but they are hoping to extend this in downtown, and even after downtown they are projecting to go to the estates, and just to make sure that they try to put things in order. Remember that there has been a public outcry, and especially by residents of Nairobi, in regards to the status of the capital. Many people complained about infrastructure, the state of infrastructure, the state also of the transport services in the CBD. There have been a lot of traffic jam before the COVID-19 restrictions, and the residents are just hoping that this will be the case, that this particular effort will go a long way in reviving the city that was once under the beautiful sun. Dibal.
Many thanks indeed, Seth Olale. Of course, we know there was a happy medium also on Friday between the governor of Nairobi and also the Director General of NMS. And of course, we can see the fruits of it right now happening on the ground right now. Thank you, Seth Olale. Chaos have erupted at the Kirinyaga County Assembly during the debating of an impeachment motion against Governor Anne Waiguru. Karumandi MCA Anthony Munene and nominated MCA Lucy Njeri have been kicked out of the chambers for the chaos. Let's have a look at the chaos that have dominated the debate. Here are the pictures earlier taken. This was happening in the House, and you can see it was a total fracas.
Sergeant at Arms, remove Honorable Njeri and Honorable Member for Karumande. Sergeant at Arms, as Sergeant at Arms, I direct you to remove Honorable Munene from the chambers.
No, I'm going for my own. I'm going for my own. But I want to say,
order members.
This is not a Kaguru assembly.
Order members. Order members. Order members. Honorable Munene, Sergeant at Arms, Sergeant at Arms,
Mr. Speaker,
Sergeant at Arms, Sergeant at Arms,
Mr. Speaker,
Sergeant at Arms. Honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members. Order, members. Order, members. Order. Order, members. Honorable Mwaneki.
We are not black.
Honorable members. Order, members.
This is not the document that I signed.
Order, members. Order, members. Order.
You can see how tempers flared there, and you can also see they've gone postal, really. Social distancing also notwithstanding in this calamitous time that we are living in. And our reporter, Oliver Tenges, will be actually giving us more details of this much later in the course of the day as well. Now, 7 sailors from Tanzania have been quarantined in Kilifi County after their vessels capsized in the Indian Ocean. The ship, identified as Haina Holo, is said to have developed mechanical problems and pushed by the high tidal waves towards Kenyan waters. Our coast reporter Kevin Mutai has more on this.
Tanzanian flagged vessel christened Haina Holo is lying in the Kenyan waters after drifting 80 nautical miles off Tanga, a port city in northeast Tanzania. 7 crew members on board were ferrying 700 logs of eucalyptus destined for Pemba. But due to the monsoon winds traveling at 26 knots, the tides pushed the vessel into the Kenyan waters to Shariani, where all the 7 crew members were found alive.
Wakazama kwa hiyo bahari ya Pemba katikati huko. Kabla hawajafika Pemba. Sasa wakazama time hizo, wakaogelea mchana mzima mpaka usiku, mpaka usubuhi ilipofika saa 5 mchana, sisi tunaenda kwa fishing. Ndio tukaona imefika mto hapa sasa, inaletwa na maji na wao bado wamezuia tu.
Kwa sababu haya maji ni ya mwezi na yana nguvu. Ushaona? Sasa wimbi huwa ni kubwa, hata nyumba ni ndogo, kimo cha mnazi.
According to the Kenya Maritime Authority, it took the intervention of the Kenya Coast Guard Services, other security organs, and the beach management unit to rescue the sailors. They were weak and exhausted, and after receiving medical assistance, the authorities took them to quarantine facility in Kilifi.
We don't want to be seen as a weak link towards fighting the COVID-19 epidemic. So, as a regulator, it's a requirement that once we have such a scenario, or such an incident, that the entire crew or all personnel on board that vessel are supposed to be taken to quarantine.
The vessel departed from Tanga on the 2nd of June but developed a mechanical problem. Soon after venturing into the sea, the sailors raised a distress call but could not get immediate assistance because of the bad weather situation at sea.
Generator ilikataa kupiga ile maji kutoa kwa kile chombo. Ili jam generator kwa sababu wale wana pampu yale maji yakiingia kwa chombo wana pampu na generator. Na ile generator ili jam. Ndo maji yakaingia.
If you have a small vessel and you are venturing into the sea or into the inland waters, strong winds in excess of 25 knots, and then with those waves, then you don't expect to have a good sail. Rather, you're going to experience a lot of difficulty.
Efforts to retrieve the shipwreck have been futile, with reports that the rough waters have destroyed the vessel. KMA is conducting marine safety and compliance campaigns in Kilifi, Mombasa, Homa Bay and Siaya counties to reduce water incidents. A fortnight ago, 2 cases were reported, but there were no fatalities as marine regulators warn seafarers of adverse sea conditions. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
Time for a short break. Don't go away, much more coming up on the other side of the break.
Pembe Flour, your most trusted quality brand for over 3 decades, has a new look now. This new pack is available in all leading supermarkets and outlets. It's still the same flour. Great taste, so you can cook and bake all you love with Pembe Flour. Pembe yangu ni poa.
Sonadol Extra imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli kupambana haraka na maumivu ya kichwa, mwili na hata meno. Sonadol Extra, hakika maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
As we battle COVID-19 and adjust to life's new normal, the University of Nairobi encourages you to pursue your career development goals. Applications are ongoing for the June and September 2020 programs for diploma, bachelor's, master's and PhDs in all our campuses with online classes available. Prevent the spread of COVID-19 by following the government health guidelines. The University of Nairobi is a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
Oya cheki, kuna vile sasa muziki manze, kuna vile inajipa manze, yani na cheki haimaanishi tu tunajibamba, yani vile regular.
Kitu ya muhimu kwanza ni kujua hali yako ya status ya HIV.
Kwa hapa hivi tuwapeleke na Rieng, tujue venye manze tutasaidiana sika vijana. Na kama unaogopa kwenda pale hivi kwa clinic, unaweza pitia pale hivi kwa chemist ya mtaa, uitishe a self test kit na wanauza 500 bob only. Unajitestia tu mtaani, unajua hali yako.
Manze na ukiweza patikana nayo, yani uko positive manze, usiogope. Kuna madawa yani jo, kuna counseling manze, unaweza kula fit yani, alafu unaweza piga bado ma exercises kiasi hivi. Na kama nyewe manze ukiweza patikana yani hauna manze, usiasi tu unaenda kutafuta tena.
Cheki, ukiweza abstain,
lakini maji yakizidi unga,
wrap it before you tap it.
La bila gloves haiwezi.
Unapoendelea kujikinga kutokana na HIV, tafadhali zingatia taratibu zote za serikali za kujikinga na virusi vya corona.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Welcome back. Now, the World Health Organization says that the coronavirus pandemic situation is worsening around the globe, warning against complacency. The novel coronavirus has killed more than 403,000 people out of at least 7 million infected since the outbreak emerged in China last December.
Although the situation in Europe is improving, globally it's worsening. More than 100,000 cases have been reported on 9 of the past 10 days. Yesterday, more than 136 cases were reported, the most in a single day so far. WHO fully supports equality and the global movement against racism. We reject discrimination of all kinds. We encourage all those protesting around the world to do so safely. As much as possible, keep at least 1 meter from others. Clean your hands, cover your cough, and wear a mask if you attend a protest.
The Institute of Primate Research in Nairobi says that their method of mass testing could potentially lead to understanding the behavioral patterns of COVID-19 in the country. Terming it serological testing, the IPR findings could inform experts on the economic future of the country. The institute also says that they have the capacity to take on vaccine research and potentially find a vaccine for COVID-19 if funded. Currently, various countries around the world are using different forms of vaccine technology in a bid to curb the pandemic. There are approximately 102 potential vaccines that researchers are currently working on, 9 of which are in the stage of clinical human trials.
We get approval to do serological testing, which is the real mass testing approach, because that will then now allow us quickly surveying the population to know, even including those who may have had the disease and healed without a treatment. And with that information, we can be able to ascertain how far the disease has spread in the population and therefore inform in terms of reopening the economy.
We have also agreed with the institution to ensure all the scientists and all those that are working here to make sure that they're taken care of. In case anything happens, we don't expect it to. But if they need any health attention, any medical attention, then they'll be covered.
Mustafa Eid, a self-confessed serial killer who walked into a police station in Moy's Bridge, Uasin Gishu County, and told officers that he had just killed his girlfriend and dismembered her, has left villagers horrified on who could be his next victim after police released him on bond. The villagers are now seeking justice for the murder of another girl. NTV's Judith Cherono has more.
This beautiful picture and the fresh flowers on Emma's grave, a constant reminder of the girl who died a painful death in the hands of her former lover, Mustafa Eid. Families of the victims are living in fear despite the suspect being in police custody and facing 2 murder charges.
Anapeana vitisho vile atakuja kutuua, atatoka, aka anajaribu, niko na uhakika vile ninaambiwa ni kweli.
The first victim, 23 years old Nancy Edome, was strangled by Mustafa in 2017 under unclear circumstances after he abducted her from her home.
Kwa sasa sisi tuko na wasiwasi. Hata watoto yangu wametoweka hapa nyumbani hakuna. Wameenda tu kuishi kwa manyumba ya watu kwa sababu ya matisho.
The suspect was later arrested and charged for murder at Kitale High Court. Mustafa Eid was given a bond of 1 million shillings and was later released despite the family opposing his bond term. While out on bond, Mustafa committed the second murder. Emma Wanyota was dismembered and her body was later retrieved from their farm. The killing prompted a series of demonstrations in Moy's Bridge town as residents accused the judiciary of being lenient to the suspect. According to records at Kitale High Court, over 10 witnesses have testified against him, with officials at the court revealing that COVID-19 pandemic has affected the completion of the 2 cases. The families are now calling on the government to ensure that they get justice for the deaths of their daughters.
Mimi nikaenda juzi Kitale tarehe 2. Kufika huko nilirudishwa kwa gate. Karatasi tu nilionyeshwa kwa gate na kuambiwa kesi haifanyiki mpaka tarehe 20 mwezi wa 7.
Judith Cherono, NTV.
Further abroad, George Floyd, whose death energized a worldwide movement, will be buried today in Houston. Floyd's death sparked protests in the U.S. and around the world, which have called for changes in policing and law enforcement's relationship with black and brown communities. About 6,000 people attended the memorial service on Monday ahead of a private funeral, a service which is today.
It was their last chance to say goodbye. Thousands of Houston residents braved the sun and heat to honor George Floyd at a public viewing full of pain and reflection. A long line of mourners, many of the city's third ward neighborhood where Floyd grew up, formed in the morning and grew over the course of the day outside the Fountain of Praise Church in South Houston. Floyd's death on the 25th of May after a police officer knelt on his neck has sparked a wave of anger and anti-racism protests across the U.S. and around the world.
You know, it feels like, you want a little bit more time to just spend there and just reverence and just be around him, just kind of have a moment with him. But it is so short. But I'm definitely glad that I came. We've been in line for over about 5-6 hours, and I'm just so glad that I'm able. It was worth it.
Some in the crowd wore shirts printed with the phrase, "I can't breathe," Floyd's haunting last words. Others raised their fists, a symbol of black power and solidarity, over the coffin. George Floyd will be laid to rest next to his mother today. His funeral will be private. Shortly after the memorial ended, Floyd's casket was placed in a hearse and escorted by police back to a funeral home.
US President Donald Trump has rejected calls for, quote-unquote, defunding and dismantling the police following protests against police brutality. Trump spoke at a meeting with law enforcement officials in the White House. There have been calls for police reform in the United States after George Floyd, an unarmed African-American man, died at the hands of police hands 2 weeks ago.
There won't be defunding, there won't be dismantling of our police, and there's not going to be any disbanding of our police. Our police have been letting us live in peace, and we want to make sure we don't have any bad actors in there. And sometimes you'll see some horrible things like we witnessed recently, but 99, I say 99.9, but let's go with 99% of them are great, great people, and they've done jobs that are record-setting.
Back home, 30 families from Target area in Elgeyo Marakwet County have today benefited from humanitarian support from Eliud Kipchoge Foundation and other well-wishers. The beneficiaries received food donations, blankets, sanitary towels, among other necessities. The World Marathon record holder called on more well-wishers to step up and help the needy in the society during this coronavirus pandemic period.
This time we'll not actually donate to athletes. That is actually mine of the general society, because those athletes actually have parents. Those athletes have sisters, those athletes have brothers, those athletes have grandparents. So the only way is that they should also get food.
We have many donors, donor friends and family who have sent money or in kind to help today with the families here who are very vulnerable, and that's what we do.
Still on sports, the Impossible Games will give athletics fans a taste of much missed action, with world and European 1500 meters champions from Kenya and Norway coming head-to-head, albeit virtually, on Thursday night. World champion Timothy Cheruiyot and Elijah Manangoi, the 2017 World 15,000 meters champion, will line up in the 2,000 meters contest at Nyayo Stadium, while the Inabriston brothers Henrik, Philip and Jacob will test their mettle inside Bislett Stadium in Oslo, Norway. The clash, I should say, will kick off at 9:40 p.m. Kenyan time. The meets, which will feature 13 others events, will be aired by Norway's Omega Productions. Technology will be on display with the time splits shown during the race, as well as technical presentation on the speed of each athlete competing. Kenyan under-23 midfielder Richard Odada clocked a full 90 minutes as his side Grafika went down 3-2 to Radniki in their Serbian second division. Football in Serbia resumed on May 30th after a break owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. Odada, who was previously at Serbian giants Red Star Belgrade, has previously undergone trials at Italian clubs Juventus and Inter Milan. The Kenyan international also played for AFC Leopards Youth and represented Kenya in the 2018 African Under-20 Cup of Nations qualifiers. Now, police officers in Kiambu County are living up to their slogan, quote-unquote, "Utumishi kwa wote," by contributing a share of the salaries to provide for the vulnerable members of society in the area. The officers from Kiambu have sacrificed their salaries to 392,000 shillings in total. The money has been used to buy food items to be distributed to over 400 households who are the most vulnerable members of the society living in Kiambu County. The move has been hailed by Kiambu residents as a very noble one that will also go a long way in polishing the image of police.
Instead of giving out the cash, we thought a lot. And after deliberating, we settled on giving out the food stuff.
Right, police doing good, and on that commendable note, we wind up the bulletin. Thank you for your valued company. I am Dibala now.
This is NTV.